chapter 8 we're going to talk about procedures. Procedure is very simple. A procedure is nothing more than a series or a group of mail commands. It is similar to, let's say, a macro, like in Word or like in Photoshop, and it can be stored in Maya's memory and can be called upon with a simple command. The simple command is the procedure name. It is possible to give your procedure arguments. So arguments means that they are additional user input that a procedure can require. Essentially, they are variables, values that is, that are supplied to the procedure when it is executed. You can use more than one argument in a procedure, but you don't have to use arguments. If you don't use arguments, you still have to add the double brackets behind your procedure name. I will give a lot of examples about this in a second. You can see here the global structure, or the structure of a procedure is global proc, procedure name, arguments, squiggly brackets, and in there you have the commands. If we quickly jump to Maya, you will see over here, for example, I have a procedure. I have the global proc, which defines a procedure, the name of the procedure, and then the argument, which is a variable, a string in this case. Then you have the squiggly brackets, and then you have the commands in there. You can see that there's a whole lot of things already together. There's an if statement here, and there's an else statement with a lot of commands within the squiggly brackets. Now, sometimes procedures will go up to 300 or 400 lines. Sometimes a whole script is just one procedure. I always try to divide my UI, put my UI in one separate procedure, and give that UI the name of the script. There are some more things that I'd like to push through when it comes to naming conventions and things like that, but we'll discuss that in due time. This is just to show you what the command structure is of a procedure. I'll just create some examples now. So we have to start somewhere, so I'll just create a procedure that creates a sphere, but with some arguments. So we have to define a global procedure, global proc, like so, and then let's call that procedure big dense sphere, like so. And I'm going to give my procedure a couple of arguments. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a procedure that creates a sphere, but it allows me to input certain things, certain values within that sphere creation. So let's say that I call, I'll give 3 arguments. Okay, float radius, float divx, which will stand for subdivisions in x, and then let's call that one div_y. Okay, you see that my arguments go in between brackets, and then whatever comes in between these squiggly brackets will consist of the commands that will be executed with that procedure. So I'm going to create a polysphere like so, and then the radius will be defined by the variable called radius. Okay, the subdivisions in y, or subdivisions in x, will be defined by this radius, by this variable, like so, and the subdivisions in y will be decided by this variable, just like that. Okay, you know, I know I'm using the short flags for this, so I'm just gonna look up the long names. Commands. I'm gonna look up the long name of that because I don't know it by heart. So subdivision x and subdivision y. So I'll just copy that from here so I can provide you with the long name. So I follow my own directives. Okay, so let's go like that. Y. There you go. So again, this procedure just consists of one line, but after this I'll make one with multiple lines. You see that if I execute this, nothing happens. nothing happens. No sphere, no nothing. That is because the only thing that I have done right now is I have loaded that procedure into Maya's memory. Now I can call upon this procedure just by one command and its flags or its arguments. Okay, let's say 50, 50. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a polysphere with a radius of 10, radius of 10, radius of 10, with 50 in x, and 50 in y. Okay. So if I execute that, I can get a big dense sphere. Okay. If you do not give the arguments when you have specified that your sphere needs arguments, sorry, that your procedure needs arguments, you would get this wrong number of arguments to call on big dense sphere. Oh, I needed a drink. My throat was a bit dry. So that is something that will happen. You know, you could say that procedures allow you to create your own mel commands, and instead of creating flags, you create, you add arguments with it. They are very, very handy because from now onwards we will always use them, because that is the practice, because they help you break up your script in easy to manage chunks of code that are easier to look at and easier to debug, and they allow you to reuse chunks of code in more than one part of your script. So let's say that you needed to reuse this procedure in your script. Well, you don't have to retype all this stuff, you just have to retype this one procedure, this one command. Okay, so let's create another one, this time with a string. Let's say that we create a global procedure, and we'll call it Scarface. We'll just call it Scarface, and we'll give it one argument. We'll give it one argument, which is, we'll call that value, that argument, we'll give it the name of the variable who, and then again squiggly brackets, and in between those squiggly brackets I'll write my commands, and in this case the command will just be a simple print command. Okay, and then the print command, I'm going to concatenate the print command with the variable that I have here, the who variable, and then something. So let's say hello to, okay, say hello to who. Well, I have to close my quotation marks, plus what? Well, plus who, and then plus a couple of exclamation marks, like so. Like so. Okay, and then I have to close my brackets and I have to terminate that command. Okay, if I don't have any syntax errors, this should have no error. Okay, and then if I say Scarface and Scarface who, let's say my little friend, and I execute this like so, then I will get say hello to my little friend. Okay, so just to show you that you can input arguments into procedures, that you can feed arguments to procedures, and then you can also use them within your commands, within the procedure commands. This is all very nice and all, but let's use this for something a little more useful. Let's say that I want to rename some stuff. Let's say that I create some joints. So, open up my outliner, go there, and then let's create a rename procedure. Let's say call a, okay, you see that I always write global in front of it. There's a difference between global procedures and just procedure. So if you would write that and then proc, there's a difference with that. This is the same as a local procedure, although you don't really write the local. But the difference between both is that a global procedure, you can call it from anywhere. Okay, once it gets stored into Maya memory, you can use it in all your scripts. Even if I just create another script right now, like so, and I type Scarface hello, okay, this will still work. While if I declare just a proc, a local proc, a local proc will only be viewable within the script in which it has been declared. Okay, Obviously, that also means that you have to be careful with the names of global procedures, because if you're not careful, and in one Maya session, if you declare two procedures with the same name, two global procedures with the same name, although they are in different scripts, you might run into problems. Okay, so let's create a bit of a renaming procedure. Let's give that procedure a descriptive name. Let's say rename all, and the argument would be the new name that you want to give to the object that you're going to select. So I'll just call that new name. Okay, so this is going to be already a little bit of a longer one. What I'm going to do, what I want is I'm going to get all selected objects, and then I'm going to rename all these selected objects. So you know how to get all the selected objects. You declare a array, and then you go ls minus sl, like so, and then you have to loop through the objects and rename. Okay, so I'm going to loop through the objects and rename each, like so. So how do you go through them? So you just say each object, like so. Each object in what? In that array that holds all these selected objects, like so. And then the rename, you have to put my squiggly brackets. The rename command is rename. Okay, and then you have to say the first one is the object that you're gonna rename. The first input, the first value of rename, is the object that you are gonna rename, and the second one is the new name. So if I go to rename, you see old name, new name. Okay, that is the way it works. That is the command structure. So the old name is each object. Okay, that is the old name. If I were to select all these, all the stuff that I have selected is the old name. Okay, that is the old name, and then the new name will be this, the new name. Okay, and just to make this a little bit interesting, I'm going to put this in between brackets, and I'm going to add a number. Okay, new name plus underscore, and then number, the number. There you go. You can specify this just the way that you would in, let's say, fcheck. It will just rename them according to in the order in which they are renamed. Like if you would go in fcheck and you want to rename something, you just go image name, or in shake or whatever, you just go like that, and then you go like this. Okay, this means that you want three numbers, or a padding of 3 numbers. Well, the same thing goes with Maya. You can just use it like that. Okay, so I'll just leave that in there, and then that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna declare this one. I got a syntax error somewhere. I have to terminate this one like that. And again, this is not gonna do anything as of such, but I have to actually use the command that I just created, rename all, like so, and then I have to give it the new name. Let's say new joint, like so. Okay, and then if I execute this with all this stuff selected, I will get this. You'll see that I get new joint, which is the name that I specified, and then I will get an underscore, and I will get the number in which they have been renamed. Okay, so let's say that I undo that, like so, and then I make some changes. Let's say that I want some more padding, and let's say that I want this to be called left hip, like so. Obviously, I'm going to show you this one has not, my changes here have not rippled through. Why is that? Well, because it is still using the old procedure, which I have not yet redeclared with these changes in it. So if you make changes within a procedure, you have to redeclare that procedure, like so, and then if you go like that, you will see that my changes have been rippled through. I have to make some changes here, but you can clearly see that my changes have rippled through once that I have redeclared my variable, my procedure. Good. I discussed what local and global procedures are. What we're going to do now is I am going to create a rename UI. Okay, I'll just get that UI so you see what is happening. Oops. Open and rename all. There you go. There you go. So if I were to create a new scene and I create some balls, what I did here is I get the selected objects, I add them into a text scroll list, and then this is something that we already did except for the button, but I'll explain to you in a second how you do that. And then you type a new name, and then you say rename, and everything within that list will be renamed. Okay, if you want to rename it again, you get new objects, you say again, okay, and there you go, everything has been renamed again to that object. This is basically throwing everything that we know up until now together and doing something useful. There are a couple of new things, there are a couple of old things, and we'll go through all of them. Let's take a look at the code and let's see what we know already, and let's pay special attention to the things that we don't know yet. Now, one of the first thing that you have to notice is that if I were to, let's say that I change my font to something really small so we can see the whole of the code. Obviously you can't read this, but what I want to show you is that you can clearly see a structure in my code already. Okay, you can see that I have these dotted lines, which the dotted lines are like titles in a book. Okay, the dotted lines indicate my different procedure, and in between the dotted lines I write in short what the procedure does. I have some commented out flag, some commented out commands, and I have some explanation next to the commands in case they do something, you know, that is out of the ordinary. I have my comments which tell what the commands below do. So when I later revisit that script, or when somebody else checks my script, it is easy for them and for me to understand what that does. Okay, so, and then I have my procedures and so on. So what I have here is I have 3 procedures. You can clearly see that I have 3 procedures because you can see the dotted lines. There's one procedure which holds the UI. Okay, the UI is nothing more than a text scroll list, a button, text, a text field, and another button. Okay, so again, a text scroll list, a button, text scroll list, button, text scroll list, and a button. Okay, and obviously these buttons have commands below them, and these commands are procedures. The first procedure is populate TSL. Populate TSL means populate text scroll list. So what I have done here is very simple, is everything that I selected gets thrown into the text scroll list, and then I have renamed this, which renamed this procedure, which is exactly or almost exactly the same procedure that we used just a minute ago, but the only thing that I did was I attached it to this rename button. Okay, let me increase my size again, put it to 12, like so. Actually, I hope you can still see it. If not, you should be able to see it. You can always refer to the notes which are included in the DVD, but I would like to make the font a little bit smaller so we can more clearly see the whole of the code and browse through it easily. I will just recreate this UI from scratch, and then the only thing that I did was create a procedure from it. So let's start with the normal stuff. Okay, if the window exists, and I will call this rename UI. Or rename UI is already a command. So what I will do is I'll put my initials in front of it. Okay, my initials in front of the rename UI, like so, and then delete UI, and which UI? This UI, like so, and then create a window with this name. That's the internal name. I'm going to add some flags to it. First flag that I'm going to use is the title flag, and I'm going to give this rename this, for example. Okay, so this is the then I'm going to turn off my maximize button. I'm going to set that to off. Okay, I always like to do that, especially for small UIs like this one. Then I'm going to declare, or I'm going to put everything in a column layout. You have to put a layout in there, whether it's a column layout or a frame layout or a form layout, because otherwise Maya is going to get nasty and do things like not show your window. Again, I'm going to give my column layout an internal name. Then under that column layout, I would want my text scroll list. Okay, text scroll list, and I'm going to call this one, let's say, select text scroll list. What would I call it? Let's say items TSL. Okay, TSL again stands for text scroll list. I'm also going to use that adjustable column flag in my column layout. I'm going to turn it on. It goes with a boolean, so the children resize according to the parent window. Under that text scroll list, I would want a button. Okay, the button has a label. Okay, and the label would be, you know, whatever, get items. Okay, so the items will be put within the text scroll list. So, and I will call this button, I will give it an, I'm going to give it an internal name as well. I'm going to call this one the get button. Okay, so after that I need a text field. Okay, so a text field like so, and I'm going to call this text field, let's say new name TF for text field, like so. And then under that I will need another button like so, but this time the button will be, the label on the button will be rename, and the button I will give it the internal name rename button. And the last thing I have to do is I have to show that window and which window? The KM rename UI window, like so. Okay, so this is what we have. Now let's make some changes to this. I would like this this text scroll list to be a bit higher. So I'm just gonna change that text scroll list minus height, let's say 150, something like that. If we recreate that, that is what we have there. Okay. Now we already know, yeah, actually to put all this in a procedure, well, all you have to do is just type global proc, and you know, this is the main procedure that will call all the other procedures actually. So I'm going to call this procedure, I'm going to give this the name of my script. Now one thing that you already see, and which is a good practice as far as I'm concerned, is that you give your main UI is the name of your script plus UI. Okay, plus UI. Okay, it makes it easy to find stuff and gives it must I say it, a firm naming convention, again, to keep things organized. You see that my script again is preceded by my initials, and then maybe I'll rename this rename all, something like that. And you can also see again that there's an underscore after my initials, then there's a small letter, and the subsequent words will all have capitals. And then the actual UI, the name of the window, the internal name of the window, I call this the name of the script plus UI. So I'll just have to rename these like that. Oosh. Rename all UI, rename all UI. Okay. To do things like that, to rename it, you can just go in, and you can do this in Crimson Editor as well. You can just go to replace, and then you can replace all the kind of a word with another word or with another string. So now if I execute this and there's no syntax errors, you'll see that nothing happens. So let me execute that again, because the other window is open. You see that nothing happens, but if I execute that procedure, then I have a problem. Okay, then rename all UI, think rename all UI. I don't know, let me try again. I forgot to copy it here. Okay, so you'll see that nothing happens if I execute this procedure, but if I mean if I load it into memory, but if I execute it, then I get my window. Now, how you can get stuff in here in the text scroll list, you already know that, right? So, okay, one final time I'll do it. I'll declare a variable and put the selected items in there, like so. Okay, this is, again, it's a string, the $sign for the, I give it a name, a cell, and then it's an array, so I have to put the square brackets. And then for each in selection, like so, I have to add it to the text scroll list. So for each in there, I just go text scroll list, then edit, then it is append, and what do I have to append? Each. Okay, and to which text scroll list? To the items text scroll list. Actually, let me make that mistake, and let's execute this. Let's put the right syntax, like so. Maya's going to tell me I have no idea, mate, where I have to add that stuff. No object or name specified. That is because you have to specify in which text scroll list Maya has to add, in this case, all the selected items, which is the items text scroll list. That is why, again, it is very important that you give your controls internal names. So now, there you go. Everything is right in there, nice and clean. Now we put this in a procedure, and we'll call this one populate TSL, and don't forget to put your brackets around it. Again, put this into squiggly brackets, and then to make things nice and clean, tab your loops. Now we execute this like so, and then if we were to recreate that window like so. Oops, did I get a syntax error there? Okay, where's the syntax error? Let's take a look at it. Text scroll list, append. Okay, that one is working. Global proc. There you go. So I load this into memory, and then I can just bring up my window. I can execute this, and I will have it in there. Now, what I like to do, and which is a very good idea, I guess, is I'm just gonna paste this text scroll list populator right before the command that shows my window. Meaning that when I execute this now, I'm going to load this into memory, it will go through all the commands, and then right before it shows the window, it will populate the text scroll list. Okay, so you get this, so you don't have to, so when the user starts the script, the text scroll list will already be populated. All the items will already be in the text scroll list. What I also do now, because I get this get items item, so the user doesn't always have to close this and restart this UI, what you can do, or what you do, is you attach this procedure to this one, to the button. So I say command, and the command when that button gets pressed is populate this text scroll list. So if I re-execute this and I go like that, but then I would be selecting other items and I press this button, you see that they get added to this list. But that immediately brought up another problem. You see that they just get added to that list, meaning if I keep pressing that button, the newly selected items get added to that list. So what I have to do each time this button gets pressed, I have to clear the text scroll list. Now, how do you do that? Well, it is very easy. You just, in that procedure here, you go text scroll list, you edit the text scroll list, and you say RA. RA stands for remove all. So let's look that up. Text scroll list, and apply. Remove all. There you go. Remove all items. So if I were to do this, obviously I have to tell the name of the text rule. You'll see, there you go, everything gets removed. So now every time if I reload this procedure into memory, every time the first thing that will happen before the text scroll list gets populated, all the items that are potentially in there get removed. Then it will go through all the selected objects, and for each object it will get added. Okay, so that means that if I load this into memory, then I execute this one like so, and then I were to select everything, everything will be removed, and then they will be added. If I do that, you see that the text scroll list gets emptied first, and then the new items get added like so. One more like that. If I select my cameras, go, all the cameras will be in there. If I select that, like so. Okay, good. The next part obviously is the whole rename thingy. The difference with here, with the previous example that we made, if I still have it somewhere, no, I don't have it somewhere, is that instead of creating an argument for our procedure, what I'm going to do is I'm going to query whatever is in this text field, and then I'm going to use that as a as the renamer, let's say, as the word in which the content has to be renamed. And the other thing that I have to do is, I'll just type it out, is I have to get all the items in text scroll list, okay, and then get input from text field, right, and then rename based on that information. Okay, that is what I have to do, because the idea is that all the objects that are in this text scroll list get renamed based on the information that you get in here. Okay, so all the items in the text scroll list, it is very easy. You just go text scroll list like that, you say query, you put it in query mode, and then you say all items like so. And again, you have to specify obviously which text scroll list. There you go, blah, 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 blah. You see that all the items are again 1 until 8, again 1 until 8. Okay. And then I have to loop through all of those, and I have to rename them. Okay, I have to rename them based on the input from here. So let me just type a word in there just to test that, and then I have to take the text field. I'm just gonna copy that like so. Text field, I'm gonna query that, and then I have to query the text. I don't know that by heart, so I just look that up. Text field, the text is, I guess, the one that I need. So I'm gonna look for text, Control F, text. There you go, here, text. The field text, and it has a query flag. So put it in query mode, specify what to query, and then specify the name of the text field, which in this case is called new name text field. So I got foo in there, so the result should be foo. There you go, foo. That is exactly what I need. So what I need now is I have to remember that rename goes like this: rename old name and then new name. Okay, so the old name in this case, the old name is each member of the text scroll list, and then the new name is this one here, right? Is input from text field. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cast these two things in a variable. Okay, obviously to make everything dynamic I have to put stuff in a variable. So I'm gonna say string, it's gonna be a string array, and I'm gonna call that let's say content TSL. So the content of the TSL, it's a string array, so I have to write my square brackets, and then I have to put it in between back quotes, and I will call this one string new name, like so. The new name is the content of the text field, and then for each let's say each item, so I have to go through a loop for each item, in each item where in content TSL, like so. I have to use the rename function. So I have to say rename, and then the old name is what? The old name is each item, and the new name is what? The new name is new name, like so. And again I will add that number, so I will say plus, and then use an underscore and the number sign, close my quotation marks and close my brackets, and terminate that command. Let's see if that works. Let's do it line by line. So that one variable is good. Then I got my new name, and then I have to loop through all these objects. There you go. Okay, you see that they are renamed. And then one final thing that you would want to do, obviously, is that when they are renamed, you want to clear this one here. So after they are renamed, what you do is you use exactly the same command as here, like so. Okay, that means that after they are renamed, remove everything. Just gonna remove this a little bit, and then obviously I have to make that into a global procedure. Okay, make it into a global procedure, call that procedure rename all, like so. There's no arguments, but I still have to write those brackets and put everything in between squiggly brackets. And let's see if we can do something else. So let's create a new scene just to make sure that everything is dynamic, and let's create some, let's create a curve, let's create another curve, let's open up the outliner, let's select both, let's get them here, and let's rename them to a new curve, like so. Okay, I'm gonna load this procedure that I just created into memory. It says here new procedure definition has a different arguments and return type. That means that I already have a procedure in Maya's memory with exactly the name, the same name. So this is exactly what I warned about. You should be careful with the naming of your procedure. So I'm going to call this maybe rename again or something like that. And then I'm going to load this procedure, the procedure called rename again, into memory. And I'm going to see if it works. It works. So I got a new name now here. It cleared everything here, and it is based on this one. The last thing that I have to do is I have to put this one in. I have to put the rename procedure into the command of the rename button. So I'm just going to type command rename again, and that's it. Okay, so let's execute everything. I just select all, hit enter, then I go like that, and I rename this into Kevin into whatever, this DVD rules. Okay, and then let's see the name. Okay, there you go, this DVD rules 1 2 3. There you go. Okay, so we rewrote that script from scratch. Just as a repetition, I will go over it short again, but I'll use I will go over it by showing you how you will make this nice, how you should always do it. So I'm just gonna create a dotted line like this, and the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some in between each procedure, like so. And I'm going to make sure that there's some space to write in between. Okay, like that. And then the first UI, the first procedure, like that. KM rename all creates the main UI. So this is just the normal UI stuff that we've been doing before with a conditional on the window existence. With a window inside, with a layout inside, with a text scroll list, a button, a text field, a button, and then I threw in the Populi TSL procedure, so every time this procedure gets called, the selected items will be added to the text scroll list. Okay. Then the second procedure, which is called populate TSL, the second procedure, populate TSL, what that does is it populates the text scroll list based on the list of selected objects. That is what this one does. We've done that before. The first thing that we do though is we can maybe say clear TSL, text scroll list, before populating it. It's always good for practice, because otherwise it just keeps adding objects to the already existing object in the TSL, and then it will just be confusing, because after all they are probably not the items that you want to rename. And then just loop through the list of selection, and each object add each object to the TSL using the, I don't know why I do this. I always write the instead of the. Always. I don't know. I'm not really dyslexic, but that happens always. Anyway, add each object to the TSL using the append flag. Okay. And then the final procedure, rename again. Rename again is the procedure that renames, so the proc that renames the objects, or let's say the items in the TSL based on the input in the text field. Okay, so that's exactly what it does. It loops through the content of the text scroll list. It checks what the name is of the text field, and then it renames all the items in the text scroll list based on the name in the text field. Good. That was already a whole bunch. You see, it's still a pretty simple script. Once you understand this, well, that means that I have done a good job, and it will allow you to complete the next chapter.